Do you remember when Jeff Bezos of the Washington Post and owner of Amazon, billionaire on top of billionaire, chose to not endorse Kamala Harris? Well, the Washington Post is now flailing. They're flailing and their top talent is leaving, and I've got all of that coming up next. Jeff Bezos, Washington Post. You might remember this when he said presidential endorsements do nothing to tip the scales of an election. No undecided voters in Pennsylvania are going to say, I'm going with a newspaper's endorsement. None. What presidential endorsements actually do is create a perception of bias, a perception of non-independence, ending them as a principled decision, and it's the right one. Well, funny enough, when Jeff Bezos made that announcement on the same day, Donald Trump met with the executive of Blue Origin, a Jeff Bezos-owned company that deals in government contracts. They're kind of like SpaceX, where they're trying to get people into space using money from the government. And so it was very interesting that it happened on the same day. Jeff Bezos denied that had anything to do with the non-endorsement, but since then, Jeff Bezos' Washington Post has lost so much money. And interestingly enough, remember Jeff Bezos said that ending it is a principled decision and he doesn't want to give the perception of non-independence. Well, what have Jeff Bezos been doing since that non-endorsement? Well, he's been at Mar-a-Lago with Trump having dinner, and he donated $1 million to Donald Trump's inaugural fund. And so when that happened, Jeff Bezos' Washington Post lost 250,000 subscribers. 250,000. That's 10% of the entire subscription base. They lost over that. And everything Jeff Bezos has done since then has not really shown that they are an independent newspaper. And so if you are subscribed to them, I don't judge you for doing it, but just keep in mind that Jeff Bezos is doing very crazy things right now. I've got more reporting on that in a bit, where a person who writes their cartoon editorials, draws them up, has quit over something that they would not post. But this is over $30 million. $30 million. Of course, that's nothing for Jeff Bezos, who's worth almost $400 billion. $400 billion is so much money. I can't even imagine that much money. No one should have that much money, but that's how much he's worth. And the Washington Post has reportedly suffered an exodus now of high-profile talent. Not only is it losing money, it's losing people, and is struggling to fill key positions and has seen employee morale plummet in recent years. The paper also irked readers, as I mentioned, when it announced that it was not going to do an endorsement. Here is that cartoon. A Pulitzer winner quits Washington Post after a cartoon on Bezos is killed. So I just want you to remember, when I read that opinion piece by Jeff Bezos, he said that was all about retaining independence. They didn't want to look like they were for the right or for the left. And Jeff Bezos said he had no hand in the decision. And yet, a Pulitzer winner has quit because of the Washington Post decision to not post this picture that shows Donald Trump here. There is Jeff Bezos right there. There's Mark Zuckerberg. That is the owner of the LA Times. And then this is Mickey Mouse right here, okay? NPR reports that the inspiration for the cartoon was the trek by top tech chief executives, including Bezos, to Trump's Florida state Mar-a-Lago, as well as the seven-figure contribution several promised to make towards his inauguration, which is something we covered here yesterday. The cartoonist said, "I am very used to being edited. I've never, ever, since I've worked for the Post in 2008, been not allowed to comment on certain topics by having cartoons being killed. We have to have the freedom to say what we want to say. We are visual opinion makers." Now, here is what the editorial page editor at the Post said in response to this. And I'm going to let you make a decision about who is right and who's not. But not every editorial judgment is a reflection of a malign force. My decision was guided by the fact that we had just published a column on the same topic as a cartoon and had already scheduled another column. This one a satire for publication. The only bias was against repetition. So, I don't know. That cartoonist says they've never had a post of theirs killed. this editor says it was kind of a malign force. I'll let you all decide. But this is just the most recent person to leave the Washington Post. 2 top reporters fled the Washington Post just less than a week ago. Ashley Parker and Michael Scherer were poached by the Atlantic, owned by Lauren Powell Jobs, and will join the left-leaning magazine ahead of President-elect Donald Trump's second inauguration. And these are folks who have kind of created some of the best stories to come out of the paper in recent years. So this is a huge upset, and it's not even the most recent one. We also have reporting here that not only is one of the top reporters leaving, but there are going to be cuts. Layoffs are expected to rock the Washington Post this week. The Status by Oliver Darcy is reporting, according to people familiar with the matter. The layoffs are slated to hit the Jeff Bezos-owned newspaper's business division, he's told. One person familiar with the matter said the cuts will be deep, impacting many dozens of employees. So good for them to get out while the getting's good. And here's that part. The layoffs will surely deplete morale further inside the beleaguered newspaper, which has suffered a talent exodus. And just before I forget, next, I have a reporter giving insight into what it's actually like there. And this reporter can speak freely because they have also most recently left the Washington Post. Star reporter Josh Dawsey will exit the Post for a job at the Wall Street Journal. And as I mentioned, Ashley Parker, Michael Scherer, Charles Lane, Tyler Pager, and Amanda Katz have also left. And this is, again, all in response to Jeff Bezos deciding to not give an endorsement. And by the way, if Jeff Bezos would have just done that in January, not a big deal. But he killed the endorsement after it was written 2 weeks before the election. Totally different thing. Here's Amanda Katz talking about this. Replacing this entire crop of reporters is going to be like trying to regrow a mature forest with saplings. The current generation signed up for jobs in accountability journalism, which no longer seems to be the Post management's focus. That's really interesting. So she's saying here that the Post no longer wants to actually hold Trump to account, which is it was the Washington Post that broke Watergate. That is like the DNA of the Post. It's crazy she's saying that. And if that remains true, anyone who can will leave. She goes on to say, I cannot overstate how much this is a business issue. Harangue the newsroom all you want, but it's not they who misunderstand what the Post audience was buying. Hello, yeah. And then Kara Swisher, who is the wife to Amanda Katz, says, and is actually trying to buy the Post from Bezos. Kara Swisher says, many more to come, including critical people whose names are not as well known, having talked to most of the people thinking of leaving and those who left like Josh Dawsey. I can tell you none so far actually wanted to leave. They felt like they had zero choice given current management. So folks, this is just the ongoing destruction of, let's not even call it mainstream media. Let's just call it corporate media, because I actually believe independent media is the mainstream media. The mainstream media, as it was called, corporate media, has not caught up to the fact that they are no longer mainstream, but they're no longer mainstream. They can keep rearranging the chairs on that Titanic, but this thing is going down. And I don't know about you, but the fact that there was so little accountability to Trump over this election, and the fact that they tried as hard as they could to make Kamala Harris or Joe Biden seem just as bad as Trump, and then not really reporting on the actual dangers and lies of Donald Trump, I'm not feeling so bad about this. I do hope the Washington Post finds its footing. I hope Jeff Bezos gets rid of his ownership of it, because to me, we do need papers. So much of what I talk about here is reporting that others have done. So it is really important that that reporting happens. But I don't have faith that the Washington Post is actually looking to tell the most truthful story anymore. And so they've lost the trust from me. They've lost the trust of at least 250,000 Americans, not to mention how many people no longer have a good opinion of the Washington Post. And so this is just a problem that, like Morning Joe, is not going to have a solution until they start to tell the truth, because the people who are wanting to read, pay for subscriptions, watch the shows, are not interested in propaganda. We just want courageous reporters willing to say whatever needs to be said against what could be an authoritarian president, okay? And my promise to you is that I will never be afraid to say the truth on this channel. I don't care. I hope I don't get lawsuits, but I don't care what happens. The truth is the most important thing. And if you cannot defend the truth, then you're one step closer to letting go of what we know America to be and always has been. So that's all I got today. If you like this video, please hit like in the video. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. It helps grow the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.